The housing market is changing dramatically. The foreclosure tsunami is on the way. This is the second video. We talk about wave 2 of the tsunami that's going to hit us sometime in the next little while. Welcome to Housing Bubble 2.0 News of the Week, or as I like to call it, another episode of As the Housing Market Turns or Burns or does whatever. Randy Patrick here, putting the realism back in real estate. Today is the 25th of August. The month is almost over. This video is brought to you by our friends at Foreclosure.com. So we're talking about foreclosure tsunami. So if you want to check out the foreclosures or pre-foreclosures in your area, go to gethousingdata.com. That's gethousingdata.com. That's my affiliate link. You can check out. There's actually even a 7-day free trial. You can see what's actually happening in your neck of the woods and verify what I'm talking about. All right, gethousingdata.com. So if you go back to the last video, it's talking foreclosure tsunami, and this is a term. The foreclosure tsunami has been bantered about for the past couple of years now. This started during the COVID pandemic when all the foreclosures were happening and people were not paying their mortgage and forbearances were going on. It was the prediction of this next wave of issues, which would be this foreclosure tsunami. So things are changing and stuff's actually starting to appear now, and we're started moving down that path, path. So, I look at it going, everyone's talking about the housing market and how it's correcting right now. We're going to talk about that and just sort of validate it in a second. But what about the foreclosures? How will they affect the market? They will affect the market. But just as I mentioned in the first video, 3 waves of foreclosure. The first wave I mentioned was the backlog, pre-COVID, 2019 prior, legacy foreclosures, stuff from the previous housing crisis. It's still kicking around and there's still quite a bit. Now, if you want to sort of validate what's happening today, well, home price drops in pandemic boom towns could be sign of upcoming real estate turmoil. So, as I said, back from Jan 1, 2022 to where we are today, full 180-degree perspective change on most of the articles and stuff you see and all the videos you see that's going on in the marketplace regarding housing. The housing market is changing. It's devaluing. It's declining. And we're getting set up for what I think is, a correction, which will eventually turn into a crash. So ultimately, in the end, how do we know this? Well, guess what? In this article, which you can check out, you've got share of homes for sale with a price drop in July 2022, so last month. Boise, almost 70% of Boise homes had price drops. Denver, 58%. Salt Lake City, 56%. Tacoma, Washington, almost 55%. Tampa, where I'm at, 52%. Okay, and I can tell you, I see the information, at least for the Florida stuff. I can see, increase in listings, and I can see the increase in price drops. So it's readily available. Sacramento, Indianapolis, Phoenix, San Diego. So a lot of these locations that had some pretty high or pretty aggressive price increases, home price appreciation, the same will follow. It will basically come down. Like the harder they come, the harder they fall. Basically, that's going to play out as we're talking about this market here. So just you can see a validation here. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Housing market stalling in July as sales plunge. So when sales are plunging during the summer selling season, where most people put their home up for sale or at least transact, that's a problem. Okay, so sales are plunging. Inventory is almost back up to 2008 levels. So there you go. And when at a time when U.S. home prices are at a near record high, in brackets, what could go wrong? And they're saying pay attention to the price drops in pandemic boom towns because they could signal what's to come for the rest of the housing market. So first thing is inventory. Second thing is price drops. And then we'll see the amount of closings and then really see where the comparables come in. Remember, real estate is based on past sales as comparables. That's where we get our information. So a lot of things happening in flux right now. Pending home sales down most since 2011, excluding the COVID timeframe. So basically, when you take a look at what happened in the last housing crisis, clearly home sales were I guess you could say decreased on a pretty fast pace. In 2000, 9, 10, 11, we had some pretty big drops. Well, we're at that sort of pace again. So we're kind of into what's happening during the last housing crisis. Fast forward to today, we're kind of at the same spot here or partway through it with pending home sales. Pending home sales are an indication of contracts for future closings. So stuff that was, pending home sales today would represent future home closings in September and October. So if those pending counts or the index is going down and it's dropping, this is the 8th month drop in the last 9, leaving sales down 22.5% year over year. So basically, it's weaker and weaker every month. That's future closings, which means we won't have as many closings and sales will be down in the future months. So just again, forward-looking indication. This is interesting though too, is the new U.S. home sales. Basically, U.S. home sales from the builders are crashing. Okay, lowest seasonally annual adjusted rate since January 2016. Basically, it's the 6 monthly drop in new home sales in the last 7 months, with some notable downward revisions too. This is the lowest SAR for the new home sales, from the past 6 years. The supply of new homes is soaring, now at 10.9 months versus 9.2 the prior month. That's the highest supply since March 2009. But going back to last housing crisis, okay, a lot of builders, like the Lennars of the world, were doing subdivisions like you wouldn't believe. And they'd have 2 or 3 phases, and they'd sell out phase 1, and you'd buy it, and they'd drop prices for phase 2 or give you incentives, and they'd do the same, and you'd be stuck with a depreciating asset within a couple of phases. So this is just, again, this mirrors what's happening. Remember, all the real estate kind of, I guess we'll call it economists or pundits, kind of agree that 6 months worth of inventory is a healthy, balanced market. Well, from the new home sales side, it's over 10 months. So we're approaching, we're getting close to a year worth of inventory. How inventory works, it's in a time continuum. So if no new homes came on the market today for sale, it would take 10.2 months at the current sales pace to sell all those homes to have zero inventory. That's how that's calculated or described. So please remember that we have an oversupply now of new homes and builders, and something has to change. They're going to drop prices or give incentives to do something to attract the buyers based on the amount of supply and interest rates and things like that. So the market is actually changing, mirroring what happened a little while ago. So again, I think that's an important note that we're seeing at least one segment with oversupply right now. Oh, and by the way, I'll be very quick here. If you enjoy my information, please subscribe. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Now, so how do all the foreclosures affect the housing market? Well, now we're going to talk about the second wave here. So the second wave to me is pandemic related. What I mean by that, it's kind of like March 2020 to present. So if you were caught in a situation where, you lost your job, or, you couldn't pay your mortgage, you had, financial difficulty because of COVID and the issues that happened, you had the ability to what? Get into a forbearance program. Or if you didn't, you'd stop paying your mortgage. So we have delinquencies, defaults, forbearance, okay? And I also want to say failed loan modifications. So what that means is the fact that you've gone through the forbearance program, and we all know that the forbearance program, was not particularly well explained to many homeowners. People didn't realize what they were engaging in, and the information we have is sort of suspect from the housing narrative and the statistics. But people, you get out of your forbearance, you now owe what you didn't pay in the forbearance period. Well, you don't have 18 months worth of mortgage payments, do you? You don't. So what are you going to do? Well, now you fall into the pre-foreclosure bucket because you owe that. Oh, well, let's do a loan modification. Okay, well, we'll do a loan modification. Your lender, bank, or servicer. Most times they don't work out, or they work out for a shorter period of time, and essentially they fail, etc. So that's what's happening right now. Obviously, we're having more recent economic distress. We know that. Inflation, even more job losses now. So stuff is actually changing in the marketplace from 2020 to where we are now. And that I call that's that sort of pandemic, due to pandemic issues. So we're going to see a lot of stuff that are going to be happening, because of that. That's going to be our second wave. Now, the problem, though, it's tough to find out the true numbers. Reason being because there is a generic underreporting of the foreclosure counts, pre-foreclosure counts, whatever that may be. All right. The reason being because a lot of the stuff we've been hearing over the past couple of years, especially with respect to the forbearance and delinquency numbers, because it's based on extrapolations from samples. So when you take a look at the information that they're talking about, it really is, well, we took a certain percentage of servicers and they gave us a little bit of a number, so we extrapolated that and did our survey, etc. So I can tell you that a lot of the stuff is going to be underreported or conservative-based numbers. Also, the housing narrative will fall into this because, again, what does the narrative not want us to know? What's going to happen in the future? Because if the general public on a larger scale actually knew what was really going to happen, there'd be a lot of chaos out there. All right. So lenders are in the business to lend and make money. Right. Keep buying that property. Keep taking that loan. Keep buying that high-priced home. If people go, well, I'm going to wait till prices come down 50% before I buy my house, that the people, certain organizations, certain businesses would be pretty messed up, pretty hurt by that. We're already seeing a big change in the mortgage market, or refis, and even on purchases right now. And again, on the housing supply, the new housing stuff, right? Looking at all those inventory, and they're cutting back now, and their stock prices are going down the whole bit. We've seen the iBuyers and a lot of these real estate tech companies have issues. So you can see that when the picture is painted bleak, it affects a lot of stuff. And again, real estate's a large component of the GDP. So there's a lot of incentive to keep that tight. So ultimately, that's the housing narrative, is like everything's nothing's going to happen, everything's good. So we know that's not correct. There's still massive confusion on forbearance, and I'm going to expand that to forbearance and on foreclosures. So I deal directly with homeowners, and I talk to homeowners with their situations, and it's actually very frightening because homeowners don't know what's going on. Homeowners don't have an advocate when they're not paying their mortgage. They contact their mortgage or bank or servicing company, and typically they're given options that typically will benefit the servicing bank or lender. Okay, that's the way it typically works. So there's a lot of misinformation. A lot of information is not necessarily given properly, or it's ambiguous, etc. So there are homeowners who still think that there are foreclosure moratoriums going on, that they're facing a foreclosure next week, and they think, oh, well, will this be canceled? They think that, oh, my lender told me everything's okay and that they'll stop it. Well, you know what? They're not. And that's the thing. Oh, my lender didn't tell me, and we're hearing now, about I have to pay this forbearance money back, and now I'm in the foreclosure bucket, and I don't have a job, so I can't do a loan mod. So you see how all this confusion, the confusion starts with the generic statements of, we'll take care of your forbearance. It's just talking to satisfy the need and to quell the fear and the chaos, which, listen, I totally get. Okay, that's what has to happen at some point in time. Without good follow-up, without really talking about the situation and explaining, this is where we're at. Okay, so we're going to see a significant increase in foreclosures. As I said, loan modification failures and redefaults. So there was a large percentage. There was an article that I had a video a few months ago that basically said like 70% of people in loan mods were not paying. Well, the whole idea of a loan mod is you've modified your loan to a payment which you can afford, that's taken into consideration these missed payments from forbearance or whatever's delinquent, whatever. They've done some calculations, moved some stuff around for you, however it worked out. There, a huge number of people weren't paying. People, that means they're redefaulting, which means they're going to go back into the foreclosure kind of process. So all the wins and all the good feel-good stories about, hey, less forbearance, people come out of forbearance, whatever, that's just a one-time thing, a peg count. Hey, there you go. You're out of forbearance. Well, now you're into a whole other world called loss mitigation and got to deal with stuff like this. So as I said, don't always believe what you hear from the narrative and the news media on this subject. It's a difficult thing to interpret. That's why I look at this stuff all the day. 3 to 10 million possible foreclosures. This was started back in the fall of 2020 when there's predictions of how this would go on. And realize that I'm going to keep showing this that this is a press release from the White House. Okay, so who works at the White House? Well, the dude's called the president, right? And when they're released here, they're saying just over 10 million homeowners are behind on mortgage payments. This is back in February 16th, 2021, right at the height of all the things. So for me to go, did 8 million people suddenly sell their homes or all do forbearance, etc.? You see, this is where you actually have to look at the realism behind some of these numbers here. Now, I want you to remember that number, 10 million people. That's where so that's why we've heard from 3 million to 10 million, okay? Early stage delinquencies push up national delinquency rate. So things are going forward. Things are increasing the foreclosure start front, delinquency front, the whole bit. We do hear conflicting information though. We'll see, well, this is up, but our 90 days are down. Like you see, there's just different ways to cut it and how numbers are moved around, okay? This is from that article, basically, and this goes to show the difference here, right? So number of properties that are 30 or more days past due but not in foreclosure, about 1.543 million. That's the top line there. Number of properties that are 90 days or more past due but not in foreclosure, 594,000. Number of properties in foreclosure pre-sale inventory. So to me, that means that these are homes that have a foreclosure filing, only 184,000, which I find very low right now. And then the number of properties that are 30 or more days past due or in foreclosure is 728,000. So that's kind of what we got going on here, which is really the top number and the pre-sale foreclosure inventory added together. So if we're looking at 1.75 million about on average right now on sort of not paying the mortgage, but not paying the mortgage all the way up to having a potential sale date. That's what's being discussed now from Black Knight Financial. All right, that's why I think these numbers are very underrepresented. They're not capturing the whole enchilada, and this paints a very false narrative as to what's going to happen in the future. So believe you me, this will be a much bigger number as time goes on, and some of this forbearance stops, and these loan mods eventually stop, and what's I'm looking for. The truth is out there. We'll start to see it as the filings increase. So that's what I really wanted to sort of connect with you guys on today. So second foreclosure wave will be the COVID-related era of about 2 years, and the ambiguous or nebulous kind of volume that we're trying to get our handles on. This will be wave number 2, and that will sort of tag on to what's happening in wave number 1. Will they sort of blend? I mean, we're not going to see like wave 1 and then it stops and wave 2 starts. And wave 1 is going to be a certain component. Wave 2 is going to start. It'll be an ongoing 3 to 5 year process. The sort of wave, I just broke them down into waves because I want to categorize the type or the timing of when this stuff was sort of taking place or how it's going to happen. But you'll see, yeah, all the legacy stuff will be going. Then this stuff on wave 2 will start. So it's going to be a blend, and some overlap, but ultimately in the end, that's what's happening here. All right. So again, not to belittle the point, but there's more than what we think is going on. That translates to big opportunity to buy a house cheap, invest, make some income, get some assets, do whatever you want to do. All right. Again, gethousingdata.com. I'm just highlighting Orange County, Florida, 1,459 pre-foreclosures sitting around right now. That's Orange County is the Orlando area. Okay, Orange County is really only one county that covers Orlando. There's Osceola County, which is Kissimmee, and there's Seminole County and stuff that covers some of the suburbs. So there's more in that metro. I'm showing it only by the county here. But the point is that that's right now. So, and again, as I mentioned with these data service companies, and no disrespect to them, because I understand, and again, I've talked to all the data companies to understand how they capture their data. All the legacy stuff and whatever, it gets dropped off because there's no activity. So it's not like, so a foreclosure filing from 2014 is not going to be in that data count probably, all right? However, and that's a dormant file. It was filed, it's got a case number, it's sitting there doing nothing. But the lender tomorrow could go, we're restarting it, and refile a hearing and set it to sale date. That's how the stuff's going to play out. So that's why there's more than meets the eye. The numbers that we see today are not truly reflective of what's really going on behind the scenes, just because it's difficult to do in the way the data plays out. So anyway, just want to make sure you guys realize that. As I've always mentioned, looking for more agents in Florida, particularly to join my real estate firm. Why? Because we're going to be handling a lot of this stuff. I'll show you how to do it. It'll be a lot of fun. So we want to jump on board here. Open up to other metros across the country if it makes sense for us. Looking for other investor buyers who are serious about buying property, not tire kickers, please. Looking for private lending partners, people who just sitting on maybe some 401k or Roth money that they need to get moved and placed. I can work on that with you. Looking to work with people on syndication or building an equity fund for all these properties. All right. As I mentioned, I'm really transitioning now out of my short sale program to my new foreclosure program. So it's virtually, like I just say, every video I'm like, jump on. Some people have inquired, transact, so you're in, and we can move forward because it's pretty much done. And we're building for the future right now. Okay. So once again, guys, if you want to reach out to me, that's my email. Send me your phone number. We'll talk. We'll set up a time to chat. As I said, I always say thank you for the views, likes, comments. Share the video with your family and friends. If you're a subscriber, please subscribe, and look forward to speaking with you probably next week. So have a good weekend.